In the peace studies field, the view of what is peace has really evolved, and it started with the end of World War II with ending war and then violence, and then the next thing was to set up international institutions like the UN to keep the peace, so people could have a place to resolve problems without going back to war. Then the third thing that got added was the need for to eliminate structural violence, where people suffer indirectly because the structure of the system doesn't meet their needs when it potentially could. And then the fourth thing were the feminists who came along and said, well, we've got to get rid of physical violence and structural violence also, not just up here in the world and big nation, but in our communities and families. How can we create peace in the world if we don't start at home? And then, but the last three types of peace that I've been writing about is the fact that we framed it as positive visions of what we need to create, and they're all based on a systems view of reality that we need. There's intercultural peace, like we have to figure out how to bring the diversity of humanity together. And it's not about making everybody the same. It's about honoring that different groups of people have had different experiences in history, different relationships with nature and so on, and they can bring the wisdom that they have learned from their own traditions to humanity as a whole today. And then the next thing is, if we can make peace with each other, can we make peace with the earth, and all the species that are endangered today? And so that requires people changing their consciousness. So the sixth kind of peace is that we can't, it's not just to make peace with each other, but we have to, as humans, but we have to make peace with the earth. And what that means is, we are now responsible for whether other species survive or not. And I think the idea that you, Mumta, are working on about rights of species and rights of nature is a really important idea in the legal system. In addition to that, I think we have to also bring in the female principle of identity through relationships, where we have to see that we're interrelated with everything. And in the West, we have to shift to this idea that we're not all separate from each other, but we're interrelated as a foundation, core foundation for people's beliefs in terms of being able to deal responsibly with these kinds of issues. And the seventh type of peace is the inner peace. So, we kind of need them all. One of the things that I got clear in some interfaith dialogue work is, if you go and you ask like Westerners, like even Western religious leaders, what is peace? They often talk about, well, we need to do action in the world and create social justice and stuff. And then if you talk to people from the East, like Hindus and Buddhists, and they would always start with the inner peace. But if you talk to indigenous people, they always start with peace with the earth. That that's our mother. If we don't take care of the earth, that's our responsibility. But now what we have to do is learn from each other, and everyone has to realize we can, nobody has all the answers. We can all contribute something important, but we need to learn from the people who know how to take care of the earth, how to do it, and be humble, that we don't have all the answers. We're at a critical point. I mean, if we don't start taking care of it, it's going to get more difficult. And futurists say one important thing is, once you see there's an issue developing, the longer you wait to deal with it, the harder it is to change the trends. So the lesson is to intervene sooner and change our behavior sooner, But it is an interesting challenge because we have more and more people on the planet and finite world resources too. Well, if people can change their mindset to realize things are interdependent, that would be a good start. But then I think everyone beyond that has to make some commitment in their own life to see what they can do. There's a huge power of committing to something beyond yourself, some kind of service, something, because then the universe can come back and support you. But if you say, well, maybe I'll do this and maybe I'll do this, then the universe doesn't know what to support. And if everybody committed to do something positive to support something beyond themselves, that would make a huge difference on the planet. I think each person has to find their own calling within themselves. Like, it's not like the same for everybody necessarily, but everybody can do something. We need to work on all these areas of peace, actually. But if we don't have the earth, we will have no food, energy, resources, anything. It's pretty basic that we need to find a way legally to say that other species have a right to exist too. And that they have not just rights, but legal rights is an interesting idea.